There is a truth that can quietly break our hearts. No matter how skillful we are, no matter how carefully we plan, life still has moments that refuse to go the way we want. There are days we prepare thoroughly and still run into trouble. There are months we persevere, yet the results come painfully slowly. There are relationships we cherish, and still misunderstandings arise. And we often call all of it with one familiar word: suffering. But if we pause and look more closely, we may realize that what we are going through is sometimes not suffering in its deepest sense, only not getting what we want. A gentler phrase, yet one with the power to unlock something important. It helps us look directly at our expectations, our clinging, our reactions within the mind, instead of rushing to condemn life itself. From the perspective of the Dharma, the difficulty does not lie in the fact that life changes. The difficulty lies in our demand that life must stay still, must stay exactly as we want it to be. We want everything to run smoothly. We want others to understand us. We want our efforts to be recognized. We want the path to be flat. We want joy to last and sadness to disappear. But the nature of life is change. The weather changes. People's hearts change. Health changes. Circumstances change. Even we ourselves change. Yesterday we liked something. Today we are bored of it. Yesterday it felt important, today it suddenly feels small. Sometimes we are enthusiastic, sometimes discouraged, sometimes strong, sometimes fragile. If there are already so many layers of change within us, how could we expect the outside world to always fit perfectly with our preferences? Suffering becomes heavier when we forget this, when we believe life should be different, should accommodate us, should be fair according to the definition we personally set. We often attach the word suffering to poverty. People say poor and miserable, and rarely say rich and miserable, as if wealth were a ticket out of pain. But when we look deeper, we see that wealth or poverty does not automatically create suffering. What creates suffering is the way the mind stands in front of those conditions. A poor person may suffer from lack, but the deeper suffering is the feeling of being inferior, the need to prove oneself, the shame before other people's eyes, and most of all, the inability to accept one's present reality. Some people are poor yet calm, living decently, able to find joy in small things. Others are poor and burn every day in comparison and craving, always thinking it should have been different, I should have been more, and therefore never resting. The rich are the same. They may not lack material things, yet still lack peace. They may suffer from fear, fear of losing, fear of being deceived, fear of being exploited, fear of reputation collapsing, fear of status shaking. There are subtle fears that only those who have a lot understand. The more you have, the tighter you can become by the need to keep it. The poor have the worries of the poor. The rich have the worries of the rich. Sometimes the rich person's worries are even more complex, not only about food and clothing, but about image, trust, relationships, and endless loops of control. So suffering is not in money. Suffering is in a mind trapped in the idea, if I have, I must hold on. If I don't, I must fight to get. And in both cases, the mind stays tense. Likewise, we often merge hardship with suffering as if they were the same thing. Yet countless situations show that hardship is not always suffering. Someone caring for a seriously ill loved one may be exhausted, but not necessarily bitter, because they love and they choose to do it. A rescue worker may rush into danger and feel hardship, but not call it suffering, because there is meaning in what they do. On the other hand, someone who does not work physically hard can still suffer endlessly because their mind is always comparing, judging, demanding, pushing. What turns hardship into suffering is resistance and resentment. When we do something while constantly thinking, "Why me? I don't deserve this. Life is unfair. Others have it easier," hardship becomes twice as heavy, hard on the body and hard on the mind. Another subtle point: we often treat pain and suffering as identical. If there is pain, there must be suffering, like an unquestionable truth. But pain and suffering are two different layers. Pain is natural. It may come from loss, failure, heartbreak, illness. Suffering is often the second layer, the story we build around that pain. With the same pain, one person collapses while another stands back up. The difference is not that the second person feels no pain, but that they do not pour oil on the fire by chewing again and again on injustice, pride, humiliation, or self-blame. When we torture ourselves, we prolong pain. When we resent, we turn pain into chains. When we conclude, "I failed, so it's over," "I have no value," "I don't deserve love," pain becomes deep suffering.
Consider a simple example. Someone hurts us with words or actions. The first feeling is pain, but whether suffering becomes heavy depends on what happens next in our mind. If we recognize our mistake and apologize, pain may still exist, but it need not become long-lasting suffering. But if we feel humiliated, diminished in front of others, trampled in our self-respect, then suffering ignites like a huge blaze. In other words, pain lies in the impact. Suffering lies in the mind's interpretation of that impact. The same is true in work failure. Pain comes from losing money, effort, expectations. But suffering arises when we fuse the failure with our identity. I am useless. Life is trying to destroy me. There is no way out. If we view failure as a lesson, as information to adjust, pain is still pain, but suffering shrinks dramatically. In life, there is a very common kind of suffering we often fail to name correctly. Suffering from the ego. We want to be right. We want respect. We want recognition. We want everything to be worthy of our efforts. When praised, we expand. When criticized, we shrink. When successful, life feels meaningful. When we fail, life feels cruel. So it turns out the meaning of life is hanging on praise and blame, victory and defeat. Suffering becomes heavy when we place our self-worth on things that are impermanent. It is not that we should not strive, it is that we should not use outcomes as a whip to lash ourselves. When people say life is an ocean of suffering, many hear it and accept it as a fixed belief. Living is suffering, suffering is the essence, there is no escape. But if we observe closely, we see that life is suffering is often true because we keep generating suffering through our reactive habits. Life brings what we dislike and we respond with resistance, comparison, demands, then we suffer. Change the response, suffering decreases. Reduce useless demands, suffering decreases. Increase acceptance, suffering decreases. So life is suffering may be true for a certain state of mind, but it is not a sentence carved in stone for all minds. In the same life, one person lives irritated, another lives peaceful. The difference is this: one person insists life must follow their will, another learns to see life as it is and respond wisely. There is a small practice that is simple but powerful. Instead of saying, "I'm suffering so much," try saying, "This is really not going the way I want." Just one word changes and the mind shifts. Saying "I'm suffering" often pulls us into a victim identity. Life is hurting me. I am powerless. There is no way out. Saying "it's not going my way" returns us to inner responsibility. There is an idea in me and reality does not match it. From there we can ask, is this idea necessary, realistic, born of comparison, driven by an obsession with image, needing to succeed, needing to be loved, needing to be better than others? When we ask like this, we create a gap between ourselves and emotion, and as long as there is a gap, we are less likely to drown. Many people think if I have enough conditions, I will stop suffering. But outer conditions are like weather. They can make things more comfortable, but they cannot guarantee peace of mind. Peace requires a different capacity, the capacity to observe and to accept. Without that capacity, we carry our restlessness everywhere, no matter how many times we change circumstances. We can be in a beautiful place and still feel storms inside. We can sit in a quiet room and still have a noisy mind. We can have every convenience and still feel not enough. Because the lack is not in material things, the lack is in a mind that always wants more. So a worthwhile question is, are we feeding suffering with desires that exceed our genuine needs? Many desires sound reasonable, wanting recognition, wanting love, wanting respect, wanting life to be smooth. But when these become mandatory conditions for us to feel okay, we become dependent. And dependence is a form of suffering. We are no longer free in our happiness. We require enough conditions before we allow ourselves peace. We end up living in waiting mode. Waiting until things settle, waiting until we achieve, waiting until others change, waiting until life calms down. But life never promises to calm down exactly when we want. So if our happiness is conditional, we will wait forever. Some people object, if we do not desire, doesn't that mean giving up? No, desire is different from a goal. A goal can be clear, realistic, and paired with effort. Desire is often loaded with demand. It must happen, it must be right, it must go my way. And when it does not, we punish ourselves or blame the world. We can still work, still strive, still build a life, but with a softer mind. Do our best, take the result as information, adjust and continue. When the mind is soft, failure is no longer a verdict, it is a lesson. When the mind is soft, success is no longer a trap, it is a favorable condition for doing good. Softness is not weakness. Softness is flexibility, the ability to bend at the right time and therefore not break.
In life, we cannot demand that hardship never comes. We cannot command everything to be favorable. What we can do is train a heart strong enough to face it. A strong heart does not mean numbness or coldness. A strong heart is a heart that can remain steady amid waves without being swept away. A person with a strong heart still feels sadness, still feels pain, but does not allow sadness and pain to become impulsive decisions, harmful words, or self-destruction. In a strong heart does not appear by accident. It is trained by gradually facing things, by learning to tolerate small discomforts, by reducing the habit of avoidance, by studying our own reactions. Some people grow up overly protected, everything provided, every disappointment quickly soothed. When they enter life, a single criticism can make them collapse. Not because they were born weak, but because they have not developed psychological endurance. Like a muscle that weakens if never trained, the mind also becomes fragile if it is always wrapped in comfort. Meanwhile, there are those who have endured many hardships. They may look weathered, but inside they have depth, stability, resilience. They are not strong because they don't feel pain. They are strong because they know how not to turn pain into long-lasting suffering. But training a strong heart does not mean forcing ourselves to endure blindly. Forcing can become cruelty toward oneself. True training is a balanced discipline, limiting indulgence so we are less dependent, facing difficulty so endurance grows, examining ego so pride softens. When the ego softens, suffering decreases. This sounds simple, but its effect is immense, because so much suffering is actually suffering from being touched in our honor, our image, our need to be better, our need to be respected. When the ego is big, we are easily touched, When the ego is soft, we are harder to pull. Look deeply and we find a paradox. Many people suffer not because they lack something, but because they cannot bear the feeling of lacking. Many suffer not because they fail, but because they cannot bear the feeling of failure. Many people suffer not because they are criticized, but because they cannot bear the image of themselves being criticized. So what makes us suffer is not only the event, but our capacity to tolerate the emotion that the event triggers. When this capacity is weak, a small thing becomes a storm. When it is strong, even a storm can pass without destroying us. So how do we strengthen tolerance without becoming rigid? The answer lies in observation, in understanding. When we understand, we let go of useless demands. When we let go, the mind becomes lighter. When the mind is light, we do not waste so much energy fighting reality. And when we stop fighting, we have energy to act wisely. Many people think resisting reality is how we change it, but resistance often only exhausts us, and eventually we must accept anyway, only now with more fatigue. Early acceptance is not surrender. Early acceptance is seeing clearly what is, then choosing the path forward with the least harm. It must also be said, some great losses cannot be accepted in a day. The heart needs time. No one should be forced to get over it immediately. But sadly, we often complain of suffering over very small, ordinary things. A little rain, a little traffic, a missed appointment, a meal not to our taste, someone not replying quickly. These sufferings are not because life is too cruel, but because our minds have grown too accustomed to being served. When the mind is used to being served, it becomes uncomfortable whenever anything deviates from what it wants. And when uncomfortable becomes a habit, we live in chronic suffering even without any major tragedy. The precious thing is, the mind is not a fixed stone. The mind can be adjusted. The mind can relearn. Selfish reactions, anger, pride, craving, these are not unchangeable nature, but habits repeated so many times that we mistake them for who we are. When we begin to observe, we see thoughts come and go, emotions come and go. Only the knowing can remain still. When we rest in that knowing, we identify less with emotion. Sadness is no longer me, but a state that is present. Worry is no longer me, but a cloud passing through. And just by changing this view, we reduce suffering greatly. There is a beautiful perspective. Sometimes we can be grateful for suffering, not because it feels good, but because it reveals parts of us that need to be understood and healed. If we have never been afraid, we do not know where we are weak. If we have never been angry, we do not know what fire inside us easily ignites. If we have never been hurt, we do not know where we placed expectations and how excessive they were. Suffering is like a test of life, showing us ourselves so we can adjust and live more harmoniously. When we learn to adjust, understanding and love grow within us. We begin to walk through ups and downs without being swept away. In the end, what we call suffering can be understood as a product of the mind. When the mind operates wrongly, it produces reactions, resistance, clinging, demands, and suffering arises. When the mind operates more rightly, it sees reality, accepts what cannot be changed, adjusts what can be, and suffering decreases. If we must put it simply, we can extract one principle. As the mind is, so we experience life. Suffering arises from the mind, and it can also be reduced through the mind. If there is one simple practice to bring into a video, it is this. Each time you are about to say, "I'm suffering so much," pause a beat and change the sentence to, this is really not going the way I want. Then ask one more question. What am I clinging to that makes this not going my way feel like suffering? Maybe it is clinging to recognition. Maybe it is clinging to image. Maybe it is clinging to control. Maybe it is clinging to convenience. When we see the clinging, we have a chance to release it. And when we release, life may not instantly become better, but the mind is less crushed. A mind that is less crushed is already a kind of liberation. And as a closing reminder, life will still bring many things that go against our wishes. That doesn't mean life wants to hurt us. Life is simply unfolding through causes and conditions. Whether we suffer much or little often lies in how we receive things. When we reduce useless demands, increase understanding, deepen acceptance, and live less for the ego, we will see that suffering is not a life sentence. It becomes a reminder. Something in us is clinging. See the clinging. Release it. Release it. Become lighter. Become lighter. And we can keep going without needing to run away from life.